Happy Halloween, friends. This is my favorite holiday of the whole year. Today we're going to be doing some slightly different plans than I originally thought. So last night, after a conversation with the landowners here at the old farm, I discovered that they're suffering financially right now. They really don't have the cash to pay me for the infrastructure, which is totally fine. No big deal. I can still use all this stuff. So my lease here actually does not run out until January 31st. I have prepaid all those months. And so I don't have to rush to be out of here today, which is good because it would never happen. So, but I am going to start. I do need some of these things. So what I'm going to do today, the priority is to get the dahlias out of the high tunnel. And since we're going to be disassembling the high tunnel over the next month or so, I'm not going to worry about pulling everything else out. Just not going to worry about it. There's nobody renting this anytime soon. So just going to get the dahlias out, get them labeled, and put them in the crate so that I can bring them home and wash and divide them. And then we are going to start taking down the deer fence. I could really use all of these 8-foot T-posts out at the new farm. And I think I'll be able to keep most of the netting. However, some of it has been torn up by me hitting it with the string trimmer and stuff like that down below. So I am going to try to roll it all back up, which is going to be quite a feat. I think it's in small enough sections because of the gates. But the other bonus of this is that I get 2 gates that I didn't think I was going to have. I only bought 1 gate with the new system, even though it's going to be a huge fenced area because the gates are expensive. But now I have 2 more gates to use. And so we can strategically place those where it makes sense and make it just more functional out there. The other thing I have decided, after spending some time out there yesterday, the new farm, and also thinking about how the water is probably going to flow out there and using the high tunnel here, and then also having a shed out there, which is great, but no greenhouse. I don't need a greenhouse to grow. I need a greenhouse to stage. So I think what I'm going to do with all of my extra, greenhouse plastic and all of the lumber that's going to come from here out there. First of all, I'll use a lot of that lumber to build more of the raised beds in the area that's a little more hilly and rolly, where I don't want to change the land too much for water reasons. I can use that lumber to build up raised beds. I'm going to take all of these bricks that I got for 25 cents each. Those can be borders for beds. I can build up beds for those. The Birdie's metal beds will come with us. That's another place to grow as well. But I think what I'm going to do is build a DIY, small greenhouse with probably PVC pipe, just the basics, nothing fancy, but a place where I can have some greenhouse tables where I can stage things. So if I have, trays and trays of seedlings coming out to be planted, they don't have to sit in the sun or sit in the dark shed. I can put them in this greenhouse while they wait. So I think it's going to be a really good idea. It's also a place where I can put all my pots and things like that don't necessarily go in the shed, which is more of a tool space. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And I have all the materials to do it. I have wiggle wire and I have lock channel bars and I've got everything. I can basically build a small high tunnel. It's not really a high tunnel. It will only be probably 7 feet high. But I can build all that without having to buy any more materials, except for maybe some PVC. But I mean, yeah, so it should be great. And I really think that will be super helpful out there. And I'll probably put it in the middle of the plot so that I can access it. It's accessible from all the more raised beds area and then the row crops area. It'll be kind of right in the middle of those. So I'm excited. I think it's a great plan. It's also going to be a nice portable structure, something that could be easily taken down if I want to bring it with me. So yeah, I feel really good about that. And there's no time struggle here. I don't have to get all of this done in the next week. I thought when we thought everything was going to be sold, that I would just be done this week out here, but that's okay. Most of the planting at the new farm is done. We'll do the ranunculus tomorrow and the tulips at home probably tomorrow afternoon. And then all my fall planting's done, and I can just focus on tearing this down and building up the new spot. So there's going to be a lot more content for you guys over the winter that I usually don't have, because it'll be construction time. Tear down and fix up, and I think that'll be really fun. It just depends on how much rain we get. I hope we get a lot, but that might really affect how many days I could be out working. So okay, so let's go talk about dahlias. I need to dig these individual ones up. I brought my tape to label the clumps, and we've got a crate out there. And once that's done, then we're going to start taking down this deer fence. You know, it's funny. Oddly enough, having my landlords tell me that they weren't going to be able to pay me, and that I was going to need to take everything down, for some reason it made me like excited, and instead of feeling like, oh god, that's so much extra work, for some reason I'm feeling so much more like just relaxed and happy. I guess part of it is that the fall stuff is in for spring, and also I'm not having right now, knock on wood, any rodent issues. I think that's really, really helping my mental state. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to doing all this work. I just want to show you really quick. This is a Bells of Ireland that I direct sowed last fall. Didn't come up until a couple months ago, and it's still, look how pretty that is. It's still blue. I mean, it's still fresh. It's dried. That's kind of cool too. But yeah, so pretty. I'm actually going to grow a bunch of these this year. I have never grown them before. I tried this just as a first time thing, and I do like them. They're really cool. All right, so this dahlia right here, according to the tag, is called Fatima. Very pretty. This is like a little ball dahlia. I mean, look how cute that is. So what I'm going to do is cut off the plant at the base. I'm just going to take a big chunk here. There we go. This gets pulled aside. Okay, so now what we have, other than all this horrible bindweed, is the plant itself and all the tubers. And normally I wouldn't be pulling like this, but the ground is fairly soft. Okay, so I'm pulling this up. There we go, and look at that. Okay, so I started with one single tuber, and now we've got all of these tubers, okay? This is what it looks like at the end of a season. So some of these are gonna be viable, some will not. When I go to, first of all, wash them all off when we get home, probably not today, but get them clean so that when I start dividing this clump, I can find tubers that have an eye, and a neck. And so what I need to do now is cut a piece of tape, write the name on it so that this whole collection I know is Fatima, and we'll put it in this crate, and then move on to the next section, and I'll just take everything I can find, label them. And so I went from, paying for one tuber, which was probably $5, and now look at all these. All right, so this is so many more plants for next year. I am going to get started on this process, and we'll look at everything when we're done. so I've pulled out as many as I could. There are still some tubers floating around in here that like broke off, but what I want to show you is, okay, so here's a tuber here, which would have been viable if it had not, actually this has some eyes on it. So these are eyes. I might bring this home and try to pre-sprout it, but I'm definitely cutting off this end. So what I have noticed is that, yeah. All right, so I don't know what one this is, and that doesn't matter. I'm just gonna keep it and pre-sprout it. What I wanted to show you, first of all, look at the size of these tubers. This is fluffles. They're huge, but tubers are, these are like potatoes, right? They're like, or jicama. That's really a better way to describe them. So they're fleshy, but they're crunchy, kind of like a water chestnut or jicama. And that means that animals who live underground love them. And as you can see in the high tunnel where I've showed you before, we have tons of mole and or vole and rodent behavior. So I'm actually just going to pop this off because it's not going to be viable. But you can see they've just eaten, right? Taken big chunks out. So I've got quite a few, like this one has a big chunk. Now this might heal over, so I'm going to, it's going to try. These are some huge tubers here. Put these away, but we have a number of, so like this one was a big giant tuber, whole thing got eaten, right? More got eaten off of here. I only have 2 tubers on this one, and they may or may not have eyes. I'll know once I clean them off. So a lot of the ones that I uncovered in here, I ended up leaving in the ground because they were really just eaten, chomped on. And that's the way it goes sometimes. I still have, that's another reason why I order dahlias every year. Okay, so another example of tubers being eaten, completely carved out. I buy tubers every year so that I can, make sure I have tubers to plant, because this kind of stuff can happen. But I'm in zone 9B, and I don't have to pull dahlias out of the ground at all. They can stay in the ground. In fact, the ones I have at home just stay in the ground. I don't even know what varieties they are anymore because I've long since lost the tags. But they don't come out of the ground because it's not just about the cold, it's also about the amount of moisture. So these tubers, as juicy as they are when they are fresh, they will rot if they're sitting in soil that's just wet and soupy over the winter. And cold and wet, that's what kills them. So in my garden at home, I tend to just really heavily mulch them. I know gardeners and growers down to zone 6, I think, who keep their dahlias in the ground now after trial and error. And what they do is they heavily mulch. They might even put a layer of plastic over the top, like if they're going to get a lot of heavy snow load and stuff, just to keep them from sitting in water. So, it can be done. And the reason I'm pulling these out is because they're in a high tunnel that I'm not going to come back to. And they were in a row crop area. So these will also get pulled out of the ground at the other farm because I'm not leaving perennials there, right? That's since I'm renting it. Eventually, when I have my own farm location, I will plant dahlias and they'll have their own beds and they'll be perennial there. I will, you can't leave them forever. You have to dig them up at sometimes because you can see, right? Eventually they divide, so this is just one season. Eventually they divide, they grow so many extra tubers that the plant just can't support itself anymore, and you need to divide them anyway. But you can always multiply your stock that way. That's what's so great about dahlias. Okay, let's move on. I'm excited to start tearing apart this deer fence. I know that sounds crazy, but there's something, just like there's satisfaction. I get satisfaction from ironing and vacuuming, like things that I can see a result in, and construction, building things. I also get satisfaction in pulling things apart and tidying up. So tearing down this area is going to give me a lot of satisfaction. And I'm looking around the high tunnel now, and I'm seeing all of this lumber that we bought to build the hip boards and the baseboards, and that's going to be so great to use out at the new farm to build raised beds. So I'm excited because I won't have to spend any additional money. The money I put into this is not going to get wasted. It's just going to get repurposed. Okay, let's go pull some T-posts. So I do have a plan of attack. And it's not going to be starting with the T-posts, because those were the first thing to go in the ground, so they'll be the last thing to come out. So let's go over what we're going to do, and I'm going to do it section by section. I probably, I won't do all of the plastic at once, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start with this section right here, and I'm going to cut off all the twist ties, pull away all of the fencing, the netting, see if I can roll that up, see how damaged it is on the bottom. And I did a lot of string trimming along here, so it might be very damaged. I still will roll it up. We can use it even if it's shorter, potentially out there for something else. I could string it super tight and use it for sweet peas trellis or something like that. So everything's going to have a continued use. But I'm going to, this won't come with me today because I forgot to bring out twist ties, and I want to twist tie up this stuff so it's very tidy and easy to move around. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Then we're going to pull the T-post, and I have the T-post pounder, which you can use to pull these big heavy-duty metal T-posts, not the little guys over there, because it'll just break them. This gate assembly is just slid into sleeves that are cemented into the ground. So we won't be able to take the cemented in sleeves, and that's fine. But the gate itself will come as a single assembly. And I think what's going to happen is I think we're going to have to rent a trailer to get some of this stuff away, because this gate is a 5-foot wide gate, and the bed of our truck is only about 4x4. So there'd be no real way to get that on there. And there is an IBC tote back here, which was Griffin's, and I'm going to buy it off of him to start with. That I don't know will fit in our bed either. So I think we just need to get a trailer out here so that we can get everything that we need hauled away that won't fit in the back of the truck. Also, like the tiller, this ancient tiller, which was free to me, weighs a ton. I don't think either of us are excited about putting it in the bed of the truck. It probably would damage the truck bed. I mean, that thing is a beast. It's probably 45 plus years old. Does work. So that will be coming out as well. So I think it's just going to make sense to rent a trailer for a day at some point where we can, especially like some of the greenhouse supplies that are in there, like all the lock channel poles and the wiggle wire and things like that. They're really long, and it would be better to tie them down to a trailer than to try to rig them in the back of this truck. Just makes more sense. All right. I'm going to start getting this stuff going. I would like to get at least 2 panels, this section here, because they're separate because of the gates. And then that section back there is all a solid section. So that's a bigger job. But we'll see how fast it goes. Maybe I can get these T-posts out of the ground without a lot of work. However, I doubt it, because the ground is still very hard because it hasn't rained yet. So that will probably exhaust my abilities for the day, but it will be a start. Okay, so that didn't take too long, but So many of the star thistle and the other really spiny things grew into that fence. It was really hard to get up. And it's torn in lots and lots of places. That particular section is not going to be usable, which is a bummer, but there'll be other sections. Okay, so next step is to pull up these T-posts. And for years, I struggled trying to pull them out of the ground until I saw this little hack, which probably the tool is also made for, but I saw somebody do it on YouTube and it works. Now it's a little fiddly, but let me show you. Okay, this is going to be potentially painful because there are a lot. I already have so many thorns in my legs right now that have gone through the clothing. Okay, so on this T-post, there's these little notches, and this is a solid, like super heavy duty, and it's really in there, piece of steel. So what you do is you take your T-post pounder, you turn it upside down, and you lean your T-post back and slot one of these teeth underneath the tool, and then you're just using leverage basically to pull it out of the ground. And it can take multiple tries, and see now it's already come out a bit. And I'm gonna slide it under the next tooth. I mean, it's not no effort, but is way easier than than the other way. Okay. It's just physics. Some of it is about getting the angle just right. There we go, that's better. If this is too much on an angle, it just doesn't seem to work as well. There we go. There we go. Almost all the way out. I mean, I can now see the flange that we buried it up to. Real close. There we go. Okay, so like I said, not zero work, but at least it's possible. If I was trying to pull those out by myself, not possible. Yes, they do sell tools that do this for you. No, I don't have one. All right. I'm gonna try to get the rest of these out. This is what's gonna determine how long I can do this today. So actually a lot further than I had anticipated getting, and I'm glad about that. I could have kept pulling the fence, but I'm getting tired and hungry and it's getting later. The sun's getting low. Some of these, so I did not use the tool to pull these out, these T-posts out, because it's on a steep slope here. That doesn't really work there. So this one it's movable, but it's pretty tight. So I'm just gonna leave that for Mike to get. These two over here, we may or may not be able to get out. I think this one we can get out because we'll be able to rig up the tool here. But that one is kind of lodged, I don't know. But we got most of them. And so all that's left right now is the gates in their cement sleeves and that back portion of fencing that goes around the back of the greenhouse. And that section shouldn't be too hard. I mean, it'll be about the same. Actually, the other thing too is that the T-post that went in on this berm area here, on the terraced area, well, that soil was way softer than this kind of gravel hard packed out here. So, which is actually the reason we had to cement these sleeves in. These sleeves are supposed to be able to be pounded in. We couldn't pound them in. We had to like auger out the holes, hack at them with a digging tool. Like, it was a nightmare. And then we just cemented them in. So they're actually way higher than they should be, but that was the best we could do because it was like cutting through concrete. So, yeah, I feel like I made progress. It feels good. And I've been thinking I might take some cuttings of some of these perennials here, or even just completely dig them up, some of the bigger ones, in the spring. I'll come back maybe in the early spring or January. Once they've defoliated, I'll cut them way back, dig up the root ball, put it in a big pot, and I can replant it out where I'm at. So the birdies beds are gonna be another thing because they're hollow on the bottom. They don't have bottoms to them, it's just the surround, which is good. I mean, technically we could just lift them up, which we probably will end up doing. But I kind of want to save all of the daffodil bulbs that are in here. So I may go digging to pull up a bunch of daffodil bulbs. I don't know. Thing is, I'm not going to have time to plant these things up. I don't really have any place to put the daffodils right now because at home we are packed with daffodils. So, you know, it probably will just be that we pull them up and the soil stays in place. This is not all soil. We hugel cultured it. So this bottom layer is cardboard and sticks and all that kind of stuff, and the soil has settled. You can see every time I plant, I top it up and it keeps settling. That's what's going to happen, is that stuff decays. So there won't be a ton left behind, but I definitely do want these 4 beds. So we'll pack those up. Then there's also this big roll of, I think that is landscape fabric that came with the greenhouse kit. So that's never been used. That'll be going. And of course the giant silage tarp. I'm hoping this weekend to be able to come out and fold that all up and get it out to the farm. And then of course dismantling the whole hoop house, which, yeah, it'll take time, but I'm not rushed, right? This is not a rush to take it apart. And then this is the bigger problem, honestly. This is another reason I would like to get a trailer. This cattle panel, I have seen people get it in the back of standard pickup trucks, but our bed is not standard, it's short. So I think this might tear up the bed, and these things are heavy. So I think it would be better to put it in the back of a trailer with all the other stuff that needs the trailer. And man, I tell you what, I am never gonna have to buy T-posts again. Oh, this one, I just couldn't even move. So again, I'm leaving that for Mike. He'll have much better luck with that with the tool. So I think that's gonna be it for today. I feel like I got a lot accomplished. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I do have an eye appointment in the very middle of the day, but surrounding that, we're going to be planting ranunculus and hopefully in the afternoon planting up the tulips. So join me then. And then Thursday and Friday, I'll be back out here doing more work, tearing more stuff down. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. This Flower Farm Transformation series is kind of more like, I mean, it's double duty at this point. Transforming a bare space to a flower farm and deconstructing a flower farm, taking it apart. It's kind of weird, but kind of cool. Have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.